Welcome back to this. What?
Wait,
I waited.
wait.
That was a wait.
Hold.
That was a wait.
Hold.
Wait for it.
Go.
And go.
Welcome back to the Sad Dad Games podcast. I'm Shan.
I'm Eric.
I'm Tucker.
And I'm Emerlie.
We will be talking about La Majora's Mask. I've been told
Mask.
that that's incorrect, and that I am a dipshit for having thought that my entire childhood.
Wait, it's not Mahora?
It is Majora's Mask.
Oh.
No, it's not. Majora's Mask is obviously wrong.
You know, Link is a silent protagonist. He doesn't say what it is, and I just had to read it, and it looks like a Spanish word, and I was going through Spanish at the time that I played the game. It's 1999 that this game came out.
2000.
No, 1999, I believe.
No, 2000.
Look
I
at
googled it earlier today. You can double check me, but it's 2000.
Majora's
It came out
Mask.
in April 14th.
You're right. April 27th.
April
Oh,
27th.
we're coming up on the
2000.
25th anniversary. Who knew?
Oh, that's a big one.
Hey.
Yeah. All right. So where were we
rent a car
in
now.
the 2000s, Eric? Was that middle school?
Well, we would have been 10. I guess, Tucker, you're younger than us, so you would have been 9.
I turned 10 in 2000 at the end of 2000, so I would have been probably 9 when this game came out. So, yeah, Shan would be 10. Eric, I think you would have been closer to
10.
11.
What
Well,
grade
I
are
guess
you
I
in?
would have been. I turned 11 at the end of 2010. So yeah, I was like 10 going on 11, but I didn't play this until I was 14. So yeah.
What grade are you in at 10? You're in 4th or 5th grade. Wow. Okay. So you're in
Fourth grade.
I was in
You're
third
in
grade when
elementary.
this came out.
Yeah, so I was,
So you
let's
guys
see,
are
I
2
was
years older.
10 turning 11 on 9/11. So that's 5th grade.
Yeah.
So you guys would have been in 5th grade. I would have been in 4th when this game came
I was
out.
in 6th grade
Such a
during
little baby
9/11,
Tucker.
and
baby
I
Tucker.
think, and I realized just the other day, it's like Ryan on The Office, where it's like I don't think I ever really processed 9/11. Where it's like Emerlie and I were with my grandma, and we were off track for those 3 weeks, and like it was Saturday morning cartoons. And my grandma wanted to watch the towers fall and the Pentagon get hit. And we're like, no, I want to watch cartoons. And we got so livid with her.
Come on, Grandma. Think I'm just supposed to watch Ninja Turtles tomorrow like an idiot?
And we fought with her for like an hour until she let us watch cartoons.
Oh, I don't remember that part. I just remember our grandpa came over. They were divorced, but our grandpa came over and picked us up, and we went and got pizza, and no one was out that day. It was very eerie, but I didn't know what was happening.
Yes. Which is a perfect segue into Majora's Mask,
Sure.
which is very eerie and, a liminal type space, just like that day on 9/11.
Way to tie it together. Shan.
Do
That was
we
a good
need
segue.
to just rename this podcast to the Liminal Sad Dad Game Podcast? Because
Everything's
I feel like
liminal.
is in
Everything's
every
liminal.
episode.
I'm liminal. You're liminal. We're all liminal.
Let's get liminal. Liminal. Let me see your Dunder Mifflin.
This is not funny.
that
That joke
is-
didn't. We tried.
It was absolutely terrible.
Okay, smash cut to Link. He's just defeated Ganondorf, right? In
Yeah.
Ocarina of Time. And
No,
then
Ganon. Wait, no, Ganondorf. Which one is the full
Ganondorf,
form?
because we always
he's the full form, right?
we nicknamed him Ganondork when we were kids.
Well, Ganondorf is.
And that was
his-
Ocarina of Time.
Ganondorf is the human
Ganondorf is
version.
when he's a human, and
Yes.
when he becomes the pig, he becomes
Ganon.
his beast form, which is Ganon. So it's
So
a
you just
semantics
be
thing.
Ganon. Yeah, that's
He
what I
just-
was referring
He
to.
just
You
began to be Ganon.
Ganon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're the dipshit in this
Began
situation.
I don't
to
think
be
so.
a dork.
Okay. So
Ganondorf.
yeah, so you just defeated Ganondork, and then the game split off into 3 timelines. You have the adult Link who defeated him. You have the child Link you have the fallen hero who dies, and then you have the child Link. Zelda sends him back into time, and they hurry and go over and they warn people that he is about to take over the world, and so they lock him away. That's where we're at. Smash cut.
Yep. So yes, that's the branch of the timeline where this happens, is the child timeline where, like Emerlie said, Link goes back in time, warns Zelda, and they stop Ganondorf before he does his naughty business and bees all evil and such. So And then Link is super duper lonely and misses his pal Navi and says, "Oh, I
Because she
want to
just
go."
flutters away
Because
at
she
the
just
end.
flutters away at the end of Ocarina of Time, breaking my little 13-year-old heart. And but then he goes on at the very beginning. That's where Majora's Mask starts off. The very beginning of the adventure, Link is wearily wandering through the lost woods looking for his good pal Navi, and then Skull Kid attacks him like a little butthead.
Little punk.
Little punk. Jumps up
and he
steals
has
his
2
horse.
fairies to your 0. It's
Brag.
With more personality. They're actually fun.
Oh, you stop! Don't you talk bad about Navi? She's the best.
Yeah, they just don't tell you to listen. They actually have some, clever banter.
Yeah, I mean, I love Tattle and Tail. I think they're both great, but I will tolerate none of this smack talk towards Navi. She's a delight.
Come at me.
So Skull Kid attacks Link, steals his horse, steals his ocarina, and runs off. Link gives chase. Eponia. All of Shan's ridiculous. That's something that we discovered when we were doing the Ocarina of Time videos, is that Shan not only pronounced it Majora's Mask, but he also pronounced Link's horse's name as Eponia.
I don't think that
like
was
an
me.
Italian.
That was Tucker.
That was 100%
Oh, was that Tucker?
me.
Okay. Either way.
And Surreal, who was pronouncing Surreal?
Eric.
I incorrectly. No, I always call. So here's the thing. I did accidentally say Surreal, but I have always called her. I have always called her Soraya because that's a name, and so
it's a me, Surreal.
It's a me, Surreal.
Yeah, see, the Japanese are obsessed with the Italian accent, and that's why.
Yeah,
there's Mario.
They
Eponia.
love all of the Romance languages.
Oh man. So I like this intro part of the game. I think it immediately establishes Skull Kid as like this insane wild card, because
wild card, bitches.
Wild card. You don't know what's coming. What group doesn't need a wild card, Charlie? What purpose does that serve? But I like the unpredictability of Skull Kid, because he's basically just a lonely child with infinite power, and it's like, I can't think of, like, step aside, Ganondorf. That's straight terrifying. Like, I just think so. I think Skull Kid's a great villain. I love. Whoa! I have lots to say about Skull Kid. We got lots of stuff to talk about in that area, but I like this setup because it just shows that, like, he doesn't really care about anything. He's just kind of doing whatever he thinks is fun, just like a kid would. He's like, "This is fun. Oh, a horse! I'm going to steal it," and then as a joke, just turns Link into a Deku Scrub, which is a bad experience for Link.
Yeah, but you know what? It comes in very useful the rest of the game.
Yeah, it ends up being really handy.
Thank you.
Turns out you could
you did
not
him a favor
platform around that, that area without being a scrub. I don't want no scrubs.
No scrubs.
TLC doesn't want no scrubs.
I don't know.
Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know what you're referencing. You need to creep.
Creep.
But
Just say creep,
yeah,
unless you're quoting TLC.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't get the reference. But he also kicks you down a hole, right? So you go down.
You chase him and you fall down a hole. But yeah.
Yeah, okay.
This is very Alice in
trees.
Wonderland. Also reminds me of Nightmare Before Christmas, where you kind of just tumble through the woods or through a tree into another world. And we are in Termina.
Yeah, so this is where things get spooky. It gets weird. Like, is this another world? Is Termina a purgatory? We'll get all the way into that nonsense. Is this an Alice in Wonderland reference? Is this a Dante's Inferno, or is it his Purgatorio reference? Like, this could be anything, right?
So is this the first Zelda game not set in Hyrule?
Not the first one.
No,
because
you've
we
got
had
Link's Awakening.
Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Link's
that.
Awakening.
Which is in a
both of
dream,
the-
but on an island.
Well, in both of the Oracle games, which I can't remember
It's Capcom.
what years they came out around this same time. I can't remember if they came out before. I think they both actually came out after this game, but they're both set in different places as well. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Game Boy
because this
Color
is my
games.
first time going through Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
And
Well, and I mean, Wind Waker technically kind of takes place in Hyrule, but it's
flooded.
Well, yeah, but
It's
that's
like flooded
GameCube.
Hyrule, so.
That's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that came later. So I think up to this point, there have been like one or two games that don't take place in Hyrule, but for the most part, it's kind of stick to Hyrule. But yeah, it's a super unique setting. It really branches off, and I love the setting of Termina. I love everything that's going on here because it's all very surreal and weird, and everything has kind of like this spooky. I mean, the best word to describe it is surreal, spooky, scary, surreal undertone. Yeah.
We have a couple other Zelda games that have other worlds. You have A Link Between Worlds. You have the Zelda one that just came out.
A Link Between Worlds is still Hyrule. So is Echoes of Wisdom. Those
Yeah, but
Hyrule.
you still kind of go in between.
Oh, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Where you change your, you can go between
realms.
multiple worlds.
Yeah, and then you have
like
Echoes of
Dark World and Light
Wisdom where
World.
you're going into this other world. You have Twilight Princess where you go into the Twilight realm. So there's like several games where you have this like other world.
It's like a dual
That's
world.
almost like a parallel. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that started with the Link to the Past, the Light and Dark World trope.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty common thing throughout Zelda games. I like this one though because it is I think it's like one of the first big imaginings in a Zelda game of a world outside of Hyrule. And I think Termina is really interesting because it's very small and confined compared to Hyrule, but it's very densely packed with like weird, interesting stuff. So lots of really cool things to unpack here. But yeah, I love the setup. I love that it just kind of throws you right into it. You immediately meet the villain. You come face to face with him. He's super spooky. I absolutely adore the design of the actual mask, Majora's mask, with those big, huge, glowing eyes that are unblinking. Yeah, Emerlie's got her
We've
mask.
got the mask here. I got to talk so that it actually appears on the podcast.
Yeah, I've got my little Skull Kid action figure. Not actually, it's just a statue, but yeah. So I think it's such a cool design that makes every moment that he's on screen like a little bit unnerving, and the music that plays, like Skull Kid's theme, is very effective at just being weird and creepy and kind of working its way under your skin. I love everything around it. It's all fantastic stuff.
From what I understand, they actually kind of designed the mask first. To set the tone for what they wanted the game to be, and didn't know what it would do or what the game would actually be, and just kind of reverse engineered it based on that design.
Plus, they only had 2 years to pull this game off. 1 year.
So the amount of time in between releases for Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask was 1 year, 5 months, and 6 days.
That's
so
insane.
It couldn't have taken any longer than that. I think the actual development time was about a year, maybe like a little bit more, but not much.
Yeah. And consider that they flipped the assets for Breath of the Wild into Tears of the Kingdom, and that still took
It still took like 6 years. Yeah. From 2017 to 2023 was
They're
when
like,
they
let's
did
just
not-
add the depths and more into
Yeah.
the sky, and it's the same thing.
And they did not make
well-
that game that much more interesting than
I
the
do
first.
love those games. I'm sorry, Eric. Every time we dog bone you.
I feel like everyone's being unfair and rude to some of my favorite games.
Just as far as like the creative delta between the two games, it could not have been as like it is so much more similar than Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask.
100%. Majora's Mask is so completely its own thing. Yeah.
I would say with Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like 5.5 of those years are spent just on the physics.
physics.
Yeah,
The
just
physics
being able to-
engine in that game is
yeah,
bonkers.
just to
And the
connect
fact that it's running
whatever
on
you
the
want
Switch.
together to then
Give them an award for that. I applaud what they accomplish, and it's one of the greatest accomplishments in gaming. I honestly believe that. Otherwise, it's kind of boring.
I'm sorry, Eric.
That one hurts me. I genuinely believe and feel like Tears of the Kingdom is a much better game than Breath of the Wild.
If it had been released first, it would have been one of the best games ever made.
Yeah.
I think
the
that
shadow of Breath of the Wild, it's a little boring.
No, it's impossible to be as special or as unique as Breath of the Wild. Like the emotional highs I had playing Breath of the Wild were greater than pretty much anything in Tears of the Kingdom. But I think Tears of the Kingdom is a better game in almost every way.
It does literally everything better. It's just too similar.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I'm not a master builder, so creating all these crazy designs,
Man, I love that.
when that game first came out and you saw the war of terror that he was just obliterating Hyrule with all of those builds that people were doing. It was incredible. I can't do that. I can barely make a bike, like I think it's only 3 pieces, 2 fans and a stick in between them, and you create a hover bike. I can barely pull that off. So unfortunately, as incredible and just mind-blowing those mechanics are, like they just don't work for me because my brain doesn't work that way. So I didn't get to experience that to the fullest extent.
Yeah, plus the depths suck ass. They could have filled it out so much more, or just nixed it because it's too repetitive from the top level.
Yeah, I like the concept of the depths. I think that it wasn't executed as well as it could have been. It was a little barren and boring. I really liked the Yiga camps down there, and like the storyline with Master Koga. I also really like how it's kind of like an area where you can face more difficult enemies and farm Zonite. I like the concepts of that, but I think in having it be just as large as the overworld map, that it was spread a little too thin for those concepts to feel really fleshed out and interesting. I think that they could have cut 60% of the size of that map and had it be a little more contained with those same ideas, and it would have been more successful.
No, so here's the thing. It's just as large as the overworld, except less content and dark.
Yeah. Yeah. So I like the concept
suck
of
it
it
up and do it.
I liked the ideas that it had, and I liked a lot of I even liked a lot of the ways that it did it. I just think that it was too spread out and too much. I think that if it had been half the size, it would have been far more enjoyable. But anyways, that's Tears of the Kingdom stuff. So yeah,
we can have a whole episode on.
Yeah, we should do it. We should do an episode about some of the newer Zeldas.
What's funny is that I think we got Tears of the Kingdom because of Majora's Mask, in that we got the creative license to flip assets the way that we did because of Majora's Mask being so successful. But they just weren't as boldly creative as they were with Majora's Mask. So in that way, I felt like they lost the spirit of the Zelda franchise with Tears of the Kingdom, and that bummed me out.
Was it you, Eric, that mentioned in a previous episode where I think it was on one of your Eric's Indie Corners where you're talking about how restrictions actually breeds creativity even more? If you want to reiterate what that was.
Well, I am a strong believer that restrictions breed creativity, that if you creatively restrict yourself, it forces you to be creative with the tools and elements that you have. And I think that is a huge thing that happened here in Majora's Mask.
Yeah, because they only had a year.
Yeah, they had a limited amount of time. And so they're like, okay, well, we have to flip assets. We have to reuse assets. So we can either do it in Hyrule again, or we can make a new world and reuse all of most of the character models, but in a different way. And so they chose to go that route, which kind of created this opportunity for them to create this weird, surreal, kind of mirror world of Hyrule, but being so completely different with familiar faces but not familiar characters. And so it immediately disarms the player. And so that was a hugely creative way to reuse those assets. And so I think, restricting yourself creatively forces you to be more creative with the tools that you have. And I think that just bleeds through every moment of Majora's Mask, is this dearth of creativity, this outpouring of
use that
not
backwards.
dearth, I use that backwards, this overflowing of creativity. Dearth means not enough of.
Shallow.
But this overflowing of creativity. So Shan's here to make sure I use the right words, but it's such a deeply creative game.
Seems smart.
Anti-dearth.
The anti-dearth of creative. So exactly that.
It's okay. You fixed it with so much alacrity.
With so much alacrity. My new favorite word. I told Liz that story the other day and she cracked up. Shan used the word alacrity, which is ridiculous, and so I teased him relentlessly for it.
Word to use.
It was a brilliant
in the context of Spider-Man.
Used completely appropriately, just like every normal human would always use the word alacrity.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to drop so many words.
No, don't do it.
No.
Don't use the words.
I thought you said you were going to cut it. And I was like, no, don't do it.
I'm always just off screen Googling things throughout these episodes.
And I want to point out that this is a brilliant idea and a trope that I think we're going to see used a lot now. or we see used after Majora's Mask. Actually, we see it used in Link's Awakening. The idea of using surrealism as an excuse for flipping assets. We see it in Link's Awakening, and we see it here. This is something that is borrowed from David Lynch and Twin Peaks. There's this place in Twin Peaks called, I think it's called the Red Room, where the detective goes into a dreamlike state, and he is able to have all of these symbolic manifestations of where Laura Palmer, or like how she was murdered. And, you know, a lot of weird things, people talking in riddles, talking backwards. This is like, if you watch the scene, you would understand a lot of references in pop culture, such as like Threat Level Midnight in The Office. Jan singing backwards is a reference to this scene.
Can we talk about for a minute the work of art that is Threat Level Midnight?
Yeah, that's right. And there's like, I don't know, just, you'll get it. Just YouTube it and you're like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my life. But there's so much David Lynch in Link's Awakening and in Majora's Mask. I'll bring it up a lot. There's a lot of Kafka in Majora's Mask. And thank you. And I was trying to figure out.
Never not funny.
I was trying to figure out, how do I describe the delta between a Kafka and a Lynch inspiration? And David Lynch, his surrealism was often inspired by the subconscious and the id, and in the dreamlike surrealism, whereas Kafka was more like the absurdism of nameless bureaucracy. So this would be like Severance and Control, and the NPCs in Majora's Mask going through a rigid timeline schedule that they don't even understand, but they always adhere to, and it's cyclical and it's rhythmic in nature, but they have to adhere to it and they don't question it. And this would also be like the government that you don't question, with all this weird bureaucracy in Death Stranding. What's that government called? I don't know, I'm spacing it right now. But anyway, you're going to see this trope a lot in some of your favorite surrealism in video games, and it lends itself to Kafka. And so Majora's Mask, the Clock Town, like, gets a lot of Kafka in there, and we also get a lot of David Lynch in the weird dreamlike stuff, especially Inside the Moon. And so I'm going to bring that up a lot today.
Yeah, excited. Lots of weird stuff.
And I messed it up. I'm gonna fix this, even though it's so long ago. Limbo, I referenced David Lynch. That's inspired by Kafka. I got it completely wrong.
So dumb, Shan.
I got it so wrong.
This must be so embarrassing for you.
It sucks to be me sometimes.
I was gonna call you out on that. Oi, 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 oi.
Now I'll play that back to myself tonight, and I'll cry and drink my tears.
Yeah. Make your shame face in the mirror while you play that back. All right, now to move on with much alacrity, we have. Did I do it right? Okay, yeah.
More alacrity, please. You're belaboring the point.
I will be more alacritonious. And so I don't even know I didn't have anything to say after that. I just wanted to make fun of Shan. So the next part here, we're in Termina now. Skull Kid turns you into a Deku Scrub, and I wanted to talk a little bit about the sequence where you get turned into a Deku Scrub. It's very different from the sequences where you obtain the other masks, and I looked up some stuff, I read some things, and I came up with some theories that I saw and heard and read online that why I feel like the Deku mask is different. So when you
curse first, then it turns into a mask.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
you're going exactly where I wanted to go. That's exactly right. So when you get the Goron mask and the Zora mask, you find someone who has either passed on or is about to pass on, and you use the Song of Healing to heal their soul. But But when Link becomes a Deku Scrub, he is forced into the body of a Deku Scrub. He is like, his soul is being crammed into the body of another Deku Scrub, which is why there's like that, which is why I think there's that sequence between like where he's, that dream sequence where there's all the Deku Scrubs crowding around him, is that Deku Scrub, the son of the butler in the Deku Palace, that's the Deku Scrub that you're taking the form of. It's heavily implied throughout the game. So something that I'm sure you guys will like is, I think that there's pretty clear parallels to be drawn between Majora's Mask and the Ring of Power, particularly in relation to Skull Kid. So as a homework assignment, I sent you guys a video that you probably already seen, but it's called A Terrible Fate, made by an animation studio called Ember Labs. They're amazing. It's a really cool fan video that they've made about how Skull Kid like gets the mask. And it's intensely creepy and super atmospheric and very, very cool. But it's got this moment where it's like Skull Kid's kind of holding the mask, and he's got this look of like fear and terror in his eyes as he puts it on his face, like he doesn't want this. And it just gives me the, like, you get the impression throughout the game that it's like, this mask is very powerful, much like the Ring of Power. It corrupts those that use it. You know, it's and you see that with kind of the things that Skull Kid does, is he's a child causing mischief at first. He's like, it's some pretty big mischief because he has some pretty big powers, but it's like, it's amplifying the negative traits and the bad feelings that Skull Kid has. It's not completely taking over his mind and his body and doing, like, the mask isn't completely taking over Skull Kid and working its will 100% through him. It's taking the bad things about Skull Kid, amplifying them, kind of letting him run rampant so that he can use the chaos, so the mask can use the chaos to kind of fulfill its own design. So I don't know, thoughts about how the mask is like the Ring of Power. What do you guys think?
That's a much better analogy than I was thinking of The Mask with Jim Carrey, because that was my first go-to. A little too on the nose, but yeah.
No, I wrote down the Lord of the Rings being an obvious inspiration here. I don't think I found that they said it overtly, but as far as amplifying negative traits as opposed to just being something that was something that the Skull Kid lusted after for power, it was more like he was lonely and he was vulnerable, and it used his rage from his isolation in order to amplify that for and his fear and anxiety, and it amplified that for mischief and to try to destroy Termina. That is, textbook Ring of Power, and that is not something that we typically see in a MacGuffin. It's pretty unique and specific to the Lord of the Rings, and is Tolkien-esque.
Yeah, with this, I don't know, the amplifying negativity and just like social media came to my mind with the mask and this whole like reflecting back on this game. And I mean, and hear me out, it sounds kind of dumb.
No, go for it.
But just where there's this mask, like social media, like the internet, there's this barrier between your true self and the world. And with that barrier there, you can do things that your normal self wouldn't do face to face. So Skull Kid causing all this mischief, doing all these bad things, at that time period in 2000, social media wasn't a thing. But now that's just a common theme. So I think it's just shout out to just being able to capture human nature in general in this game with masks and just with Majora's Mask, and bringing out the worst in people because there's a certain barrier there.
So I don't know if I've ever shared my theory on why Utah drivers are absolutely the worst. And it's kind of playing into what you were just saying, Tucker, is that, people in Utah often are very religious, and they have to go around, hidey-ho, neighbor, diddly doodly, like Ned Flanders, and they're always putting this mask on, and then when they get behind the wheel of a car, they become straight up assholes, because there's that separation between other people, much like you were saying with social media, is that they don't have to face people directly on the road, and they can cut you off and just freak out at you. And it's just the ultimate road rage, because that is the only time when people in Utah are able to be almost their true nature. And yeah, that's why we have the worst drivers here.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
I don't miss it.
Yeah, and I also thought this is the same. Well, there were two directors on this. This was Noma. Wait, let me pull up their names.
Eiji Aonuma.
Yeah, Koizumi. Yoshiaki Koizumi, and
Eiji Aonuma.
the other one, Eiji Aonuma. Yeah. So Aonuma. What was I even saying? These Japanese names. Too many vowels, you know.
Shan got all mixed up trying to pronounce things. Yeah.
Koizumi, Koizumi,
no, but
Koizumi, everybody.
They directed and helped write with a ton of the Zelda games: Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, the most seminal Zelda games. I feel like probably why we haven't felt like Zelda games have lived up to the standards of our favorite, most nostalgic Zelda games is because we don't have Aonuma working on them right now.
Aonuma is the creative director for pretty much all Zelda games since Ocarina of Time. He's pretty hands-on. Aonuma is. Yoshiaki Koizumi has gone on to kind of do more general Nintendo stuff, but Aonuma is like the Zelda guy.
I thought he was just producing, but Aonuma, the point I was trying to make was oh gosh, it was about Lord of the Rings, and that now it's irrelevant, but like I was just getting at, like, he was inspired by Lord of the Rings, the corrupting One Ring. It's clear he was inspired by that with the mask, but also, like we had brought up in Ocarina of Time, he was inspired by Lord of the Rings because of the Shire, and the Kokiri, the Kokiri, not forest, but what's that called?
No, it's just forest, the Kokiri Forest. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Kakariko Village?
No, Kokiri Forest. How it was like this this pure area of that ends up getting corrupted when you become an adult, similar to how the Shire gets corrupted after you leave it. Although in the movie shows that it's a happy ending, it's not a happy ending in the books. Like, it gets destroyed. And
you climb the whole mountain just to have an owl fly you back home.
Yeah, and that's true. And but they combine that with like Peter Pan, where they're never aging.
Yeah. No, lots of influences from Peter Pan and Lord of the Rings, and I think particularly in this game with the mask being very similar to like the ring, and how it kind of calls to people who are weak of will to kind of persuade them to do its evil nasty bidding. So I think it's cool having the primary antagonist being like a mask, like a source of power that corrupts other people. Very cool. So
what is the reference? It was The Office, where he's like where Dwight gets offended at Ryan trying to make a reference to the Lord of the Rings. It's like, no.
Oh yeah, it says,
I'll
make the Lord of the Rings joke, dumb
to
jock. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, no, Smeagol was corrupted and became Golem. Leave the token references to me, dumb jock. All right, that was completely unnecessary tangent. But
I thought you were going to reference when he does CPR and then cuts the face off and wears that mask.
Let's get back on track and see if that helps us kind of be less terrible.
Okay,
at this today.
we're talking about the mask.
Yeah, so we're talking about Majora's Mask. You get turned into Deku Scrub, and then you are introduced to the Happy Mask Man, and you go into Clock Town, and you get introduced to Clock Town for the first time. So Link goes around, you do, you find out that Skull Kid is causing the moon to crash into the earth, and so the Happy Mask Man says, hey, you have 3 days. He stole this mask from me. Get this mask back, and I'll help you turn back into a person. And so Link goes running around doing some chores, figuring out how to get, you meet with the bombers, you go to the observatory, and then you are able to go up to the top of the clock tower at the night of the festival and then face down Skull Kid. So,
with this being my first time playing Majora's Mask, I'm going to call Majora's Mask this entire episode.
It's really hard not to say it now.
Yeah. I did not realize how many items, things from Super Smash Bros. Came from Majora's Mask. There are so many. And
Like what?
There's the moon crashing.
From a new perspective, yeah.
Yeah, the moon crashing. I knew it was from Zelda. No idea it was from Majora's Mask. The bunny ears. I didn't even know where that was from.
Yeah.
And that was a happy surprise. I'm trying to think. As the... I can't remember what they're called, but the bombs, like the little rat bombs.
Bomb chews.
The bomb chews.
Well, those are Ocarina of Time, actually, but yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're barely in that game. I think you can beat the
they're
game without them
They're
almost.
optional. You can completely miss them in Ocarina of Time. So,
but to your point, yeah, it's like there was a lot of items in Smash Brothers where it's like I knew about a lot of the items, and then I thought, okay, well, I know that they made some of the items specifically for this game, so I figured a lot of, so I had dismissed a lot of the items as just custom, and then I play a game for the first time, I'm like, oh no, that's where a lot of these items came from, just like you're going through right now.
Yeah, so it is like super fun. I don't know, it's
like reverse
weird.
Easter eggs.
Yeah. It's Easter eggs. So it's interesting because I'm reading through Lord of the Rings, the books. I've seen the movies a billion times, but reading the books now, I'm like, oh. It's just watching the movies first, then reading the books is just enhancing it. So it's like playing Super Smash Bros. And then playing these older Zelda games and other games I haven't played before, haven't played for a long time. It's like, oh. It enhances the experience. So
there you go. Yeah.
Highly recommend doing what I did. Missing out on it for 20 years and then
I was gonna say,
revisiting it.
Next time
an amazing game comes out, you just sit on it for 20 years and who knows the reverse Easter eggs you'll find. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm going through Conquer, and isn't Conquer in like Diddy Kong 64, so maybe I should go back to that.
Yeah, he was in Diddy Kong Racing.
He was like Racing.
Yeah, so
Diddy Kong 64.
No,
it's not a game.
There's a lot of side by side. It should be a game. Why wasn't Diddy Kong 64 a game?
Yeah, right.
So I love this first area, Clock Town. It's kind of like the beating heart of Termina. There's so much going on here. I love that like everyone and everything is on a schedule. So the same things happen at the same times every day. It's always raining on the second day. And just like you just start to kind of Clocktown becomes this place that you just know in and out and you understand what's going to happen. And going back to it for like the millionth time, it's fun to just like slip back into a world where maybe even a little more than Ocarina of Time, because Clocktown is so tightly designed and small that I just like, I know it's like, oh, at this time, so-and-so is going to do this. And it's like, oh, the milk bar opens at this time. Cafe is going to put mail in the mailbox 1, 2, 3 now. Like you just, it's like comfort food. It's like, I know what's going to happen. It's like coming home. Yeah. It's you're learning all of these people's routines. And one thing that I love about this is because Link is sort of a guest in the world of Termina. In Hyrule, he's a hero. Lots of people know who he is. Lots of people help you on your quest to say, hey, go stop Ganon. But in Majora's Mask, you're just a kid. Most people don't know who you are because a lot of the times you're wearing a mask. A lot of the times you're taking the form of another character through like the Goron mask and the Zoro mask and the Deku mask. Link is just a guy to these people. Yeah. They're going about their scripted
you feel
lives.
Like a vagabond.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so unique. It's such a unique way for a Zelda game to be. They're just going about their days. They're doing their things. And you are just... It's
floating.
like you're just another character in someone else's story. Whereas you're kind of going behind the scenes and saving stuff, but no one really knows or appreciates what you're doing.
Whereas another way I heard it put is you're a silent pilgrim.
Silent Pilgrim, new band name, I call it.
He is really good at band names. No, I think you're Dante in the Divine Comedy is referred to as a pilgrim, but Link being a silent protagonist, as I was trying to figure out like the references to all the literary works that this game was based on, I saw Link referred to as a silent pilgrim because he is just making his trip through Termina, helping people deal with their grief, trauma, and unresolved issues as a silent pilgrim and grief counselor, and helping them move on to their other, to the afterlife, essentially, if you take the full symbology of everything. And once they have accepted their, have dealt with their grief, they give you a mask, because that has symbolically been dealt with, and they no longer have to hide behind it, and they give it to you to represent that, and they move on. And I wanted to use this opportunity as a teaching moment for a word that I just found out.
Is it alacrity?
It is not alacrity. Another term for this is you act as a psychopomp, which is
a psychopimp.
A psychopimp.
Yes,
that's what I thought. That's what I thought I saw at first when I saw it.
Psychopimp is way better.
Link acts as a psychopimp in Termina. So a psychopomp, it's Greek, and it is somebody
Can you use
who
it in
helped.
a sentence?
Yes.
Yeah.
Charon, or Charon, I don't know how it's pronounced, acted as a guide across the river Styx, right? So it is a being that helps guide spiritual beings to the afterlife. And so this would be like Anubis or Charon from guiding people across the river Styx, and that is what Link is acting as in Termina, helping people move on.
Yeah, when you acquire the different transformation masks, the Goron mask, you come across Darmani, who is a fallen warrior who has already died. You come across his ghost, and his soul is tormented, and you help him to move on to the next plane. And then in the Great Bay, you come across Mikau, or I never really knew how to pronounce his name. I always called him Mikau.
I assume it's Japanese, so Mikau would be
Mikau,
right.
Yeah. And he is not quite dead, but is dying. And then, you are able to help him move on with peace and go on. So yeah, I like the Link being a psychopimp. Very cool.
A psychopimp, yeah. And and it would just be like you split it into words. So psycho being like soul, mind, and pomp being a guide. So it's a soul guide.
Yeah.
Or pimp being one who whores out other beings.
He's just providing protection. That's all he's doing.
So he's a mind pimp.
Yeah.
Gators girls better wear jimmies.
Dang it, you beat me
Gators
to
bitches
it.
better be wearing jimmies.
Gator meets his gat, you punk ass bitch. You beat me to the quote.
Yeah. Here's a rape whistle, and in case you're in any actual danger, somebody with a real gun will come by to help you. Oh man!
Well,
Such a great movie.
I mean, I had originally thought that we should go through and just talk about the story, but I feel like people listening are pretty familiar with the story, so I think maybe keeping it pretty loose and talking about
a little asynchronous.
Yeah, these grander themes seems to be working for me. I'm finding more interesting conversation that way. But yeah, I really like Clocktown.
So Clocktown, let's talk about what it represents.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's talk about what I think very literally it's circular, and it's right in the middle of Termina, which is also circular, and it's the hub and spoke system that is Termina. Yeah, even if you look beautiful. At the map from a top-down perspective, it looks like the middle ticking part of a watch. It has I'm just going to keep saying circular. It's a very circular design, and it sits right in the middle of Termina, which is also very circular. And then it has these north, south, east, west branches to it, which kind of makes the quadrants of a clock. And so, and I think
much better designed than Hyrule in the first game, where it's
just
Lon Ranch is the center, and it's you're kind of just jumping all around, and it's chaos, right?
Well,
whereas this was much more purposefully designed.
Yeah, I think Majora's Mask is really tightly designed because, again, those restrictions breeding creativity. And I mean, I love running around in Hyrule Field. I have some of the most fond memories of running around in Hyrule Field and Ocarina of Time. But I think that like when Ocarina of Time came out, we were just so gobsmacked to be running around in an area that large in 3D. We were just we just couldn't believe that it was real, that we didn't really care that it was kind of empty.
Which is hilarious because it is tiny compared to like Breath of the Wild.
It's huge.
Well, it's like in the game, you just kind of like stick to like one side of the map for the whole game, and then at the very end, you jump all the way across the map to go to the Spirit
And
Temple.
here's Gerudo Valley. Yeah.
Yeah. You don't even know that half of the map exists.
Off in a corner by itself. Yeah. No, but I love Termina. I think it's very tightly designed. I think that, and correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, or correct me here if I'm wrong, but I think that you even work your way around the areas. I think you go like, you start in Woodfall and you kind of go in a circle, almost like the passing of time. That might be wrong. North Woodfall is...
we should probably just look at a map.
Yeah, well, someone look at a map and tell me if I'm wrong. That might be completely wrong, but I do think that it was like Clocktown specifically was intentionally designed to be circular.
Snowhead is north and Deku Palace is south, so this is just wrong.
Okay, so never mind. Completely wrong. Forget that. I'm a dum-dum. But yeah, I love Clocktown. I like how everyone in there, it's almost like they're little gears on a clock because they're all running around doing the same things at the same times every day. And you can count on them and rely on them to be in the same place and do the same thing at the same time every day. Just like you can rely on the gears of a clock ticking to keep time. Yeah.
Really interesting to me. Just because full disclosure, I ended up using a walkthrough for my first time through.
Everybody does.
For time, just to be able to get to this point.
Did you do the song of the reverse song of time?
Yeah.
Okay, to slow down
Eric
time.
spoiled that for me.
Listen, it's the only way to do some parts of the game. You have to slow down time.
It really is. And then I found out you learn it actually later on through some
way too late later on.
I was giving you the schoolyard experience.
Exactly.
When I was playing this as a kid, your friends are like, "Oh, you got to play the song backwards," and I was like, "What?" So I was.
By the way, there's a Mew under the truck.
Yeah.
Also,
it's either all word of mouth, or you do dial up and you go to cheatccc.com.
Oh, love myself some good cheat CC. But I can't remember what I was going with that. Oh, just learning that. So I tried to go as far as I could without a walkthrough. I did not. I made it to the Woodfall Temple, and it was just a pain to get there. Brutal without the walkthrough. But it was really fun just to learn that, of just to see. I mean, I can't remember how many days I had, or how many times I had to go back to the beginning before I got to the Woodfall Temple, just because I was running out of time exploring around. I was not expecting this, I don't know, like level of, it almost felt like Breath of the Wild exploration when you get to Clocktown in Termina, and just wandering around and going through these fields, collecting coins, fighting this stupid bird that is impossible to kill.
Stupid bird.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't feel like we get it in games as much. This like truly exploration and like schoolyard feel. I think really the last time I remember is when Breath of the Wild came out. And Shan, Eric, and I were just texting about it all the time.
It's magical times.
Yeah, just magical. And it was really fun to relive that. And just to have that like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was there. That was so unexpected.
It feels like Trust, but it's just like bad UX by today's standards.
It's an older game, you know?
Yeah.
But they're still ironing out some of those UX kinks. Yeah.
Yeah, they couldn't user test it. They didn't have great designers at the time. And it was new frontier in 3D design. So like it was just, and like we didn't have as many games to challenge our time. And to take us away to the next thing. So it's like we were okay with that.
Yeah, like I found myself wishing I was my 10-year-old self, that this was one of 2 games I had that I could just go and play for hours on end after school. Instead of now where it's like, okay, my entire, being an adult and being, a new father, it's, everything is pretty scheduled out, and time for games is so limited and so story-driven, more linear games make more sense because you don't need that time to go explore. You can get this wonderful experience on more of a track.
That's why open worlds are hard for as a dad.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, here's this, 30-hour game at minimum, and it just makes me like, I don't know if I want to commit to that. Like, I have to really want it for those big open games. But it's interesting to hear that perspective, Tucker, because I was actually going to ask you what it was like as a first-time player, because I've played Majora's Mask so many times, and I played it for the first time when I was not like right when it first came out, but I was 14. And so it's like, it's been more than 20 years since I played it. And I have the game, like all of the steps memorized. I just know, like I typed up an outline today to like get all of the story beats down, and I did it from memory because I just was like, you do this and then you do this and then you do this. Like and so I didn't have any friction points. And so it's interesting to hear that it's like I couldn't figure out what to do because it's been so long since I couldn't figure out what to do in Majora's Mask. That was 20 years ago for me. So, but it's a fun game to just explore, and I'm jealous that you got to have that sense of wonder and exploring, because I haven't had that with this game for 20 years.
Yeah, I'm surprised how much I feel kind of like the end of the first time I played The Last of Us Part 2, where Majora's Mask is sticking with me emotionally. Which I did not expect at all.
Because
just
like any game that has like a lot of symbolic weight or something you have to deconstruct, and because it's because it has symbolic weight that you can abstract and tie its meaning to your own life. It's like you're going to be deconstructing for a while to figure out what you decide it means.
Yeah. Well, and also, I like The Last of Us Part 1 and 2. The Last of Us 2, I don't think hits as hard without The Last of Us 1, which I think Majora's Mask does not hit as hard emotionally without your experience in Ocarina of Time. Because you are building these relationships, and then all of a sudden you're alone. And none of those things. You're in a foreign land all by yourself, which I think everybody has felt like that emotionally at one point or another in their life. And I think that's where it's just so, I guess for me, so relatable of just, oh my gosh, like I've had my Kid Link in Termina moment. I've had I have to wear these different masks moments. And that I'm going to jump ahead to the end of the game. At the end of the game, where you give the masks away, like I was borderline tears because of just such strong symbology. Is that the word? Is that a word?
Yeah. Because like every mask is somebody's grief that you took away from them.
Yeah. And a lot of the masks are masks that you use for a specific purpose, but have to give up to move forward, which in, coming of age and, becoming an adult, growing as a person, as a human being, you have to do that. Is you have to give up something from your past that was once very useful, but you have to give it up to be able to grow and move forward, like Link does at the end here. Wasn't expecting that at all from a Zelda game.
I love so much of what you said. I don't even know which part I want to expand on, because I want to talk about all of that. I think as from a first time perspective, everything that you're saying is just gold. I love it. I really like what you touched on about loneliness. And I think to put that further in context is Link at the beginning of this game. So I think it's easy to kind of forget some of the details about Ocarina of Time when you start Majora's Mask. But Link in Ocarina of Time, he went through this journey. He became an adult. He saved his homeland from ultimate evil. And then Princess Zelda says, you did it. I'm going to send you back in time so that you can have a childhood. He goes back in time and he has all of these memories of him being an adult and him saving the world and him, fighting off this ultimate threat. And no one else remembers that. So there's this huge piece of Link's journey in his life that is lost, that he feels attached to, but isn't there anymore. And so he goes searching for Navi, for a connection to that quest, and for a piece of that part of him that he left behind. And he goes in the Lost Wood and he gets lost and he stumbles upon this land of Termina that is in the wake of, not in the wake, that is on the precipice of a cataclysm. And it's teetering on the edge, and he finds out that he has the power to stop that, but no one will know it's him. No one will care that he's there. No one will understand what he's sacrificing. He is floating through this world as a silent pilgrim, which is my new favorite phrase. I love that to describe Link in this game so much. He's trying to put back this stuff that he's lost, this part of him that no one remembers. And in doing so, he stumbles upon a land and a hero's journey that will be thankless, and people don't know anything about his quest there. And so it just exemplifies and expands these feelings of sadness and loneliness. And even though Link is kind of a blank slate, he feels lonely and slightly tortured in this game, in Majora's Mask. You kind of like feel this disconnect from all of the characters around you, that you're serving them and you're helping them, but they almost don't really care that you're there. It's this indifference of a world that doesn't view Link as special.
Yeah, well, and like you compare the two endings of Ocarina of Time, and there's just this massive celebration. Everybody is at Lon Lon Ranch, and they're partying, and there's fireworks. Everybody's together, and
Ingo and Talon are getting smashed. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're there with them, and they recognize what you accomplished. And here, before the party, before there's any celebration, you just walk away after Skull Kid thanks you for helping him. And then everybody has their own individual celebrations that they get to go on, and they have no idea that you helped.
Well,
And
I think that's
it's
the beautiful thing about Majora's Mask is, in contrast to Ocarina of Time, is you were helping everybody. Majora's Mask, you were helping one person. And I love Skull Kid. I've never felt the way about a villain in a video game as I did for Skull Kid at the end of this game. Like, I felt bad for him. I empathized with him.
Because he's a child.
He's a child that he felt like all his friends didn't want him anymore and left him. And that wasn't the case at all. And it's just, I don't know. It's just, I just feel so bad for him that he had to turn to this mischief, and because he was lonely, got sucked into something that was bigger than him and was just being used by Majora's Mask to do evil things. But it's just one of those, it's really interesting. It just, I'm helping everybody, saving the world. I'm helping one person, or I'm saving the world, but in reality, at the root of it, I'm helping this one person figure out their life, figure out their grief, figure out how they can find themselves and find happiness when they feel alone, which you have to do as yourself as Link. You're on that journey with Skull Kid.
I don't really feel like I had enough empathy for Skull Kid, like what you're saying here. I think after the end of these 3 days in Termina, I needed to play as Skull Kid to really gain his perspective, much like The Last of Us 2.
Yeah.
That would have really helped.
I would have been down for that. Just you could do the 3 days again, but as Skull Kid, and you just sit on top of the clock tower slapping your bum for 3 days.
I think that would have really helped me to gain some.
Tucker's always on top of the clock tower slapping his bum. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And you think it kind of like subverts the hero's journey in a way, because typically, like Ocarina of Time, it's one of the most perfectly told hero's journey, especially just like I think in Ocarina of Time I described it as like my prototypical hero's journey as I understood it, because it was my first as a kid, and so it was the perfect fantasy, it was the perfect hero's journey, and it's everything I understood that genre to be as I matured into understanding storytelling. And here it subverts that genre, because he's not necessarily running around and slaying the same way he did in the first game on an epic scale. He's running around and he's restoring and he's healing and he's trying to create balance. And the climax, although it is fighting and defeating the mask itself, he's actually trying. The ultimate climax is trying to find the compassion and empathy to restore Skull Kid, and that is an inversion of the trope, because you're not trying to fight and kill him like you would with Ganon. You're trying to heal him.
You're a hero, but in a different way, which is really cool. Kids, take a lesson.
And it's beautiful because how you arrive there, and we need to break this all down in like the second half of this discussion, is you have to traverse all of Termina through the 5 stages of grief, which is you run through Clock Town, which is denial, and you go through Woodfall, which is anger, Snowhead, which is bargaining, Great Bait, which is depression, Ikana Valley, which is acceptance. And through exploring all of these themes of the 5 stages of grief, you understand all of this collective trauma that everybody's going through, and you learn the empathy and compassion that's necessary to be able to forgive Skull Kid and to help him reclaim his soul. And so you reach out to him and you bring him back to the other side, and then you go and fight the villain, which is not Skull Kid himself, but the mask. And you separate the two, and you restore Skull Kid to his good side.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to maybe break down like our next talking points. Is we can go kind of by area and talk about how they represent the different stages of grief and the different things we want to talk about in relation to those areas, because I know that that's a common thesis that lots of people have talked about, as the Termina representing the different stages of grief, but it's something that I haven't really analyzed and unpacked a lot. So I'm kind of excited to talk about that aspect of it. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah. So Clocktown, pretty obvious that everybody sees the moon and just doesn't accept that it's about to blow up. As Death Stranding would put it, void out all of Clocktown. Just there's an angry moon with a big old schnoz that's about to crater.
There's a couple people that seem worried about it, but for the most part, people are like, it'll probably sort itself out. Like,
which seems ridiculous, but by today's standards,
that's a little too close to home.
Just you live in blissful ignorance. Sometimes it's better to just understand less and keep smiling in ignorance.
If you don't look up, it's not real. And then there are some people that look right up at the moon, and you're like, nope, that's not happening.
Yeah. It's probably just a really big other kind of rock.
Yeah. So that's pretty clearly denial. And this really hits home at the Kafka-esque nature of Clocktown. Thank you.
It's so hard not to say it every single time Shan says Kafka.
Every time Shan says Kafka, I glance at Tucker's screen and I can see his eyes light up every time. He's like, should I do it?
Well, and I just started reading one of his novels today. It's only a couple 100 pages long, and it's called The Trial. And there's this man called Kay who just at the beginning, the inciting incident is that people just barge in and tell him that he is he's indicted, he's under arrest for something that they will not explain to him, and then he ends up going through he ends up being pushed through all of this clerical nonsense that he can't understand, and nobody will explain to him what the charges are. And it's this non-ending bureaucratic nightmare with all this faceless nonsense, and it's cyclical, non-ending, and it's just it's eerie, creepy, cyclical nightmare. And this is kind of gets at what's going on in Termina, and it's kind of a side effect of this of what they created with this NPC scheduling system, which I am to understand, like it was a byproduct of some programmer was creating an NPC scheduling software to be able to track the NPCs while they were creating the game, and then they realized this could be a core mechanic of the game to have it to be a repeating 3-day mechanic.
Well,
and so
I think it also speaks to the like restrictions breeding creativity again. They knew that they like had to kind of limit the scope of this game, and they're like, well, if we script the NPCs movements exactly and they don't have any AI, they just do exactly the things that they're told every single day without fail, like then we don't have to, there's less troubleshooting, they just do what they do. And so I think it's also a byproduct of that. So again, a really interesting core mechanic being born out of them being kind of like having to be creative with how they use their time.
Yeah, so it's like these people going through their roles without questioning it, and having this 3-day cycle, and like it feels rich, and it feels like kind of surreal and detached, but still human in a way that is uncanny, and that is so Kafka. Achoo.
Bless you.
Did you? What is it? Did you say achoo? Oh, God bless you. Do you know what I'm talking about? Men in Tights.
It's been
Oh
too long.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where the guy's name is Achu.
It's a classic Mel Brooks joke.
Yeah.
Anyang.
Yeah.
Anya.
Now that one I know.
Yeah. I definitely love how in this game they took Ocarina of Time, where they mess with time. You're constantly going back and forth between being a child, being an adult, and that was such a unique idea, especially at that time, to do time traveling, and for them to still do time traveling in this game, but still make it unique and not just be repetitive where you're just going back and forth. And like you said, everyone's just doing their same thing. It's like a Groundhog's Day situation where you know exactly what everyone's doing. You can try and fix their problems. It's only going to fix it for the day, and then it's going to reset. And you can slow down time. You can do all this. And then you just have to keep going back to the beginning of those 3 days and decide, what am I going to prioritize this time around? Or am I just going to be a jackass and just go around and mess with people because I know there's no consequences and you can just reset time again?
I think that the 3-day cycle for me, it gives me this feeling of impermanence, and it highlights, I think, one of Link's biggest feelings of loneliness. Tucker touched on it earlier. I touched on it a little bit earlier about how Link feels detached from this world and lonely, and like, you know, after being the hero of Ocarina of Time, if every time he gets a kind of that on a micro scale, every time he completes a dungeon or saves someone or helps someone, but then is about to run out of time and has to go back, and then he's looking at the face of a friend, someone that he might care about, someone that he helped overcome something really hard, and they don't remember him at all. And not only that, the problem that he worked really hard to fix isn't fixed anymore. And it creates this like feeling of impermanence. And it's like, I imagine that this weighs on Link, and it feels sort of like a micro version of what happened to him in Ocarina of Time, where he did this big, great task and then went back in time, and it's like it never happened because it didn't. And so I wonder if I were in that situation, I think that I would feel guilty. I think that it would, especially because it's like some of these things, like you have to get a mask or you have to get an item, and then as soon as you get that mask or item, you have to go back in time so that you can have more. So it's almost like you're helping these people with their problems and with their different situations, and like saving, like sometimes when you beat a boss or something, or you finish a dungeon, it's like it saves this whole area from something bad that's happening. Like when you go to Snowhead, the Gorons are all like freezing and having a terrible time in a blizzard, and you beat the boss, and then it's beautiful springtime and everything's wonderful. But then as soon as you're done with the boss, you've got the stuff that you need, you go back in time and it's a frozen wasteland again. And it's just like, it's almost, I wonder if it would make Link feel like he's using these people, that he's not actually helping them. He's being selfish to get the items that he needs to, help Skull Kid, which will ultimately help everybody. But along the way, how do you think that weighs on him? I feel like if I was doing that, that would weigh on me. I'd be like, I'm not helping these people. I'm just milking them for items so that I can do the other things that I need to do. I can't help
especially
everybody.
The following days, it's like, oh, I helped this person, I helped these Gorons. I know how happy it made everybody there. I need to now I know how to fix their problems. I know exactly what to do, but now I have to actively ignore them to be able to go do this other thing while I still have time. Like that, I think that'd be really heavy. Is the outcome. You know the joy that you can bring, but you have to set that aside for something different. And so, yeah, I think there's this level of I'm using these people, and you almost have to disassociate yourself from the situation. So not only is the world pushing you away, but you also have to push away the world.
Yeah, it's like, I know how to fix you, but now I'm going to let you die 50 more times. But it's okay because I know that ultimately I'll get there and I'll be able to fix all of you. It's pretty bleak.
It is, especially for a Zelda game. It's very bleak. Like that's some heavy stuff. It's some kind of dark. I don't know. I think that there's so much interesting stuff like this in Majora's Mask to kind of mull over and think about that. Like, how would this weigh on Link? What would this be like for him? Because he's such a blank slate that we don't always think about like what's going on in his head. Because if you look into his eyes, the answer is nothing. Not a damn thing's going on in his head. But
could you effing imagine how brilliant this would be for a story arc for Spider-Man? Because he would live with the eternal torment of knowing everything that he can fix and not being able to fix it all. Because he'd live out the same storyline. He'd be like, okay, well, now I know I can fix this. Now I know I can fix that. But he can never in one timeline fix all of it.
Yeah.
That'd be hell for
it's a choose
type.
your it's a pick your poison. It's like do the most good that you can. Yeah, that would be a very interesting Spider-Man story. And if Lundy was here, I bet you he'd tell us the issue where that's already happened.
Lundy, I know you're listening. Make it a comment.
Yeah, let us know. Drop it in the comments. Let us know what comic does that already happen. If you're curious, Lundy's putting it in the comments as we speak. Yeah.
Okay, so
we're going through the stages of grief.
Yes, and so Woodfall.
Yeah, so
anger
we're out
next.
of. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So this is also the trial by Kafka, where they they give him a trial without telling him what he's convicted for. This is similar to and like their processes that they won't explain, and he just has to go through it, and it's non-ending, and this and the cycle just repeats every day, and it's hell, right? So this is similar to what the monkey's going through. It's like we don't have proof. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to put you through it. I feel like this is almost a direct allusion to this body of work. But anyway, it's just like this monkey, he is infuriated. He just embodies anger, and he doesn't care about law and order. He throws out the whole book because he just wants blood.
Well, not the monkey, the Deku King.
Oh, Deku King.
Yeah, the
Why
monkey
am I
is the one.
Monkeys?
No, because the monkey is trapped. The monkey is the one that's being wrongly accused.
I got it all backwards.
Yeah, the monkey is being wrongly accused of kidnapping the Deku princess, and the Deku King
so monkeys
is the
are
one that's
in
very
there.
mad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you aren't entirely wrong. There are monkeys involved. I just as a little plug, I have to mention every time they come up, I love Deku Scrubs. I love it when they're not just an enemy. I love when they're like a race that you can interact with. So when Echoes of Wisdom came out and the Deku Scrubs were like NPCs that you could talk to and they had a village, I was just tickled. They're my second favorite Zelda race. I love Deku Scrubs.
I love their cotton candy. It was
Their
so
cotton
cute.
candy
It's so
and
gross and so cute.
yeah, and Echoes of Wisdom, their cotton candy, so adorable. But I love the Deku Scrubs in this. I love the Deku Scrub music for the palace. It's
so good.
Fantastic.
It is stuck in my head all the time.
Like, I know that Ocarina of Time probably has my favorite Zelda soundtrack because it's deeply nostalgic, but Majora's Mask is like, the soundtrack in this game is something else. It's nothing but bangers. They're all amazing. I love the music that plays here. It perfectly sets the tune. It makes you feel kind of like frantic and energetic, sort of like the Deku Scrubs are. They're always they have this weird kind of frantic energy. But it also feels like slightly regal but wild. It really sets the tone very, very well. And I love the Deku Palace. I think it's such a fun place. And I love the variations in the Deku's designs in this one. Like in Ocarina of Time, it's really just like, here's the Deku Scrub. And in this one, I feel like this is one of the areas where they really created a lot of new assets. There's lots of different looking Deku Scrubs. The Deku King looks different. So does the Princess. I like all of the variations in the Deku Scrub designs here. And it's a super cool area. Big fan of the whole Woodfall Deku area.
I also got the reference wrong. He has another book called In the Penal Colony, and it's the machine of punishment runs even though the crime is unknown. So he has another book that's similar. All right, sorry, go on. I'm going to be annoying like this the entire time.
Shan's got to get his references right. He doesn't want another one of those limbo situations where he gets it all the way wrong. He's got to correct it weeks later.
And like nobody's going to care about this at all.
But Shan
right,
will care, on. And he won't be able to sleep until he fixes it.
Nobody's going to care who this author is, and I'm just going to keep bringing it up.
Yep. But I think that, yeah, this representing the stages of grief or of anger, like the monkey is very angry for being wrongly imprisoned and accused. The Deku King is very angry and is just looking for blood without any kind of proof or anything. And so you end up having to kind of go and clear the monkey's name before they straight up murder him. So you have to go into the Woodfall Temple, rescue the princess, bring her back. And can we talk for a second about how adorable it is that you just like at the end of the dungeon, you just put her in a bottle. She's like, take me back to my dad. And you're like,
okay.
How? I can't tell you how long as a kid I was like, I don't know what the hell to do with you. Like, I'm just sitting here like, I feel like I probably had to go the next day to school and talk to my friend about it and be like, how do you get this stupid lady out of this I don't know what to do. Like, to leave the temple and save because I don't know, how do I get her out of here? And like, oh, you just put her in a bottle. And I'm like, you put what? When has that ever been the case for anything? Yeah, just put this other character in a bottle. Like, so that one took me a minute to figure out. I had a hard time with that one, but I think it's funny how she's just all shoved in there. And then when you take her back to your dad, Link just does the standard like bottle dumping out animation, and then she's just like there, like I did it. I was in the bottle.
I remember Ocarina of Time, how long it took for us to figure out that you had to go catch a fish and drop it in front of Lord Jabu Jabu to get his mouth open. Same thing. You're like, what the hell? How do I pry his mouth open? Just eat me.
Yeah.
But
how was I supposed to figure that out? Yeah.
That took a long time.
Yeah. I had a similar, my first time with Jabu Jabu. It's not, that one's hard to intuit. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've done denial, we've done anger. Which one is bargaining?
That's
the last one, or the second to last one, right before acceptance. So that would be, oh no, that's not right. So, is Snowhead bargaining? Because Snowhead's bargaining, Great Bay is depression, and then Ikana Canyon is acceptance. So yes, the next one is bargaining, Snowhead. With the Gorons, my first favorite Zelda race. I love Gorons. So
Goron Link is my favorite Link in this game.
The best. He's so cute.
He
pinches little Goron cheeks.
Yeah. I've never been a real big fan of Gorons, but Goron
Which
Link
is insane. Continue.
Yeah. But just Goron Link, my favorite one. By far.
Is it because he does a booty bump?
Drums. Yeah.
Is it because he does a booty bump for his third punch attack?
Yes,
is that why you like him so much?
That's like 99% it.
And it's not just that he does a booty bump; it's that he like puts his arms in front of him and he like ooh, like he does this. It's like it's hilarious, and I love it. Yeah, and his bongo drums. I love Goron Link. And I love when if you just like pull out his bongo drums and then you just push the buttons really fast. He just like
I love the different instruments. That was a fun, unexpected add. I was expecting the ocarina 100% of the time, and then first time as a Deku scrub when you just pump out your bagpipes, and then I'm like, oh, that's kind of fun. And then when I found out all the other, I'm going to call them changeling masks, have their own instruments, was just fantastic.
Well, how would Deku Link play an ocarina? He doesn't have any lips. You just hold it up to.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think so. I guess talking a little bit about how Snowhead represents acceptance. Did you have any thoughts on
bargaining?
Or bargaining? Bargaining, Shan. What are your thoughts on how Snowhead represents bargaining?
Yeah, so just there's a coldness to this whole area. It's obviously directly symbolic of just how bleak you feel when you're in the stage of bargaining and you feel like you have no other recourse, and so you're just pleading and you're frozen in place. And that's where all of these Gorons are. They are a fire creature, and they are why are they stuck in ice right now?
So in Snowhead, Skull Kid has in turn to all of these different areas he's kind of done bad things to them. Like in Woodfall, he's poisoned the water around the Woodfall temple. And in Snowhead, he's made everything very snowy. Normally there's like an area, that's why it's called Snowhead. There's like an area that there's like a big snowy mountain, but he's caused a huge blizzard to go across everywhere else where it should be nice and sunny and happy on the mountain, particularly in the Goron city, which Gorons are usually creatures that like live in like a volcano or up high on like a volcanic mountain. They are a creature of the heat. And so to have them be in a snowy area is like would be a bad situation for them. So I think that the how this represents bargaining is represented pretty well in Darmani, who is the Goron hero who has died. So you come across his ghost after you get the Lens of Truth, and Darmani leads you back to his gravestone, where he's like, I tried to be a hero for everybody, and I died trying to, protect these people. And he asks you to heal his soul, and he's basically just like, please heal my soul, like anything to. So he's bargaining, and it actually works for him because you do heal his soul. But I also like the analogy that Shan kind of referenced, that these Gorons are in this area and they're stuck and they're frozen. They're kind of paralyzed, feeling like I'll never break out of this. Please, like anything to help me break out of this and be in a different situation. And so I think that maybe this representation is less overt than some of the other ones. Like I think that Clocktown representing denial and then Woodfall representing anger, those are a lot clearer. And I think that the Snowhead representations of bargaining are a little less overt, a little more subtle, kind of under the surface. But
yeah, I think
still there if you look for them.
I think it blends the lines with depression pretty closely. And I think that the differentiating factor is the Gorons have hope for change. They have hope that things get better. They're looking for answers, that are willing to do whatever to get that, to make that happen.
Well, they're begging Link to help in a way that feels different from others. Because I don't know, the Great Bay seems more directly linked to depression in a way that Snowhead doesn't. Yeah, because they are just straight up miserable.
Yeah, and I think
it's
that's
like from the first moment you get to the Great Bay, it's just a
bad
bummer.
News Bears.
Yeah, it's probably my least favorite area of the game, just because it's like you get there and
it's a graveyard. Yeah. And babies are stolen and ugh.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess the point I'm trying to make is I think just there's this sense of hope. Things can get better, where the depression side, Great Bay side is there's no hope. It's devoid of everybody's just meh. Where Gorons are still trying a little bit.
Good old Gorons.
Yeah,
Well,
and they're trying to bargain with the living. And yeah, it just feels like Great Bay has given up. Yeah, that seems like exactly the right thing. Also, like, okay, anecdotally, I have to bring this up. Snowhead, I did not understand that there was an invisible Goron. I just thought that you had to have the perfect immaculate like run down that course while
that, like, narrow,
it was
windy path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tried that as a kid for hours, and I was infuriated to find out that there was a lullaby that you were supposed to play. That was infuriating. Now, this is funny because there is another novel by Kafka, bless you.
You got to let us do it. It's not as fun
it's
if you
not
do it
funny
yourself,
when you do it
Shan.
yourself.
I'm
get to sing it.
It's called The Castle, and this is one where it's like, let's see. Let me see if I could find a description of it. It's this person is trying to enter a castle, but there's like endless bureaucracy that is preventing him, where authorities are stopping him, but it's indescribable bureaucracy that is preventing him, that he can't seem to get through to get there. And it feels like that's what's being described here with like the what's the castle on the other side, especially with that invisible Goron that's trying to blow you off. Right, it's like there's an invisible force that is constantly and invisibly and in a surreal way pushing you back, and you can't understand it, and you're baffled, but you're always trying to get there, and you're never seemingly making any progress. And that feels like an allusion to this novel.
I always wondered why he was invisible, and looking back on it now, I think it might have been hardware limitations, like rendering distance for the N64. I think that maybe it was just a big asset that they were like, it was a little too far away that they couldn't cull it properly. So I don't know if that's true or not. I just like, but as playing it again as like this time around, I was like, I wonder if he's invisible because or was there like a story reason for him being invisible? Because it would have been easier to understand if he was visible and like blowing on the path, and you'd be like, oh, I probably need to do something about that Goron in the way.
I don't know that would, like, they're pretty blocky figures, especially at that LOD. Like, you can get them to be pretty blocky, so that's not that many triangles.
All right, maybe not. Yeah.
And like, and like, if you just have them be like a couple colors, those textures are pretty simple. So I don't know that it would really be that complicated to render. Because it wouldn't be really that much more complicated than a regular Goron. Because of how far away
because it's just size. Well, so maybe not. But I always wondered why he was invisible, and so yeah, who knows?
To frustrate the ever-living hell out of me.
Yeah, they said, "Hey, we have this little kid. We need to frustrate him. What do we do? Oh,
this will piss him off."
Yeah. Piss him off.
Now, this is, I think, my favorite temple out of the entire game. It is very clever. It's very unique for any Zelda game.
Really, more than the Stone Tower Temple.
Yeah, I don't like the tone of that temple.
Okay. I mean, I love this temple too. I
love the design of that temple. I don't love the tone of that temple. It just like it's a really cool temple. I just like that whole like spirit nonsense. Not for me. But like the design of this temple, along with the theme of the snow and the ice and stuff, it's pretty darn cool.
I agree. I love this temple. It's got the best boss fight. You battle Goat. He's the friggin' best.
Goat.
Yeah, he's the goat.
Plus, I hate singing that stupid like song in the spirit.
The Elegy of Emptiness.
Yeah, I hate that nonsense, and those things are creepy as hell. But yeah, Goat. Correct. He's the coolest one, right?
He's the way coolest by like a mile. None of the other bosses are even close.
Yeah, and like you get to like shoot up his groin and just like grind him down.
Shan's favorite thing to do is to shoot up the groin and grind him down.
Shoot up
grinding
groins. Like, you get a like
G&G.
You get to shred up his perineum.
The perineum, yes.
Anyway,
no, but that's an exhilarating fight. I love it because you just rolling around as a Goron, you have to chase him down and he's shooting lightning at you, and it's just like, and you're always moving. There's no like downbeats in the battle. It's just it's an electric boss fight, pun intended. It's very, very cool.
Yeah, this is the boss fight that I felt just fit the mask the best of this entire game. It's like, yeah, this is a Goron fight. Like, I am more than any other one.
And there's just like so much energy because you're constantly moving.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't talk about this. I'm gonna layer this back in, but like Adalwa from the Woodfall, he's clearly a boss that represents the same anger that is represented in all the other characters in that area thematically. And Goat, if you're kind of stretching, he could kind of represent that
bargaining.
Yeah, bargaining. There you go. That's what
100% it.
That was the dumbest. I loved it.
The best I could get with his bargaining is that it's like bargaining is a sort of like I don't know. It's a cyclical, like you're not giving up because you're. It is
the battle arena is a circle, and bargaining is a cyclical thing.
It's like you're going in circles.
I like Tucker's answer better. Yeah.
Bargaining. Whereas like Gaiorg is a little more obvious. Like it's depression, you're drowning, you're helpless.
Gaiorg is the worst. Friggin' George.
Gaiorg sucks ass.
We'll come to that one, but I've got a
Twin
Gaiorg
mold
story.
Twin mold is harder. I don't know. Adalwa and Gaiorg are the easiest ones, and then Goat is just yeah.
He's the best. He's the most funnest.
Bargaining.
Well, on the bargaining note, I think that maybe is this a good time to cut this one and then come back next time for the rest of Majora's Mask?
Thank you for listening to the Sad Ad Games podcast. This has been a sometimes terrible, sometimes fantastic episode of Majora's Mask. And please like, comment, subscribe, and leave us or follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. And please listen to Eric's Indie Corners on Thursdays.
Like, comment, subscribe. Shan's right.
Yeah, whatever.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Outro. Bleep-a-doof, bleep-a-deep, bloop-a-dee-blow.